Tonight, missile campaigns intensify in the Middle East as Donald Trump warns of a big wave of strikes to come. And Iran shuts down a major sea passage, raising more fears about petrol price hikes. I'm Jessica Van Vonderen. This is ABC News, Queensland. Also tonight, a 21-year-old man shot dead by police in Brisbane. A Gold Coast mother's death under the microscope after her murderer was granted bail 9 days earlier.
And the tropical coast is on alert, with the Coral Sea low expected to cross the coast this week, potentially as a cyclone.
Good evening. US President Donald Trump has warned the biggest strike on Tehran is still to come and that he'll send in American troops if necessary. On the third day of conflict, the Iranian regime's retaliation has been taking aim at more countries. It's pounding key oil refineries and shut down the Strait of Hormuz. The human cost of the war is also coming into focus. One human rights group says at least 1,500 people have been killed in Iran by US and Israeli strikes, including 200 civilians. Iran's latest strikes have also hit an airbase used by Australians. We start our coverage of the war tonight with Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran.
Iran's capital under fire as the US strikes from the air and the sea. Daylight revealing the extent of destruction at the Gandhi hospital in the city's north. It was evacuated on Sunday after Israeli missiles fell nearby. The explosion also felt by residents in neighbouring apartments.
Suddenly I saw the door and windows and everything being thrown towards me. The chandelier fell and thick smoke covered everywhere. I was shocked.
And the United States says the biggest hits are yet to come. President Donald Trump honouring soldiers of past wars and the 6 American troops who've died in this new one.
In their memory, we continue this mission with ferocious, unyielding resolve. We have a lot of great service members here with us, too, in this beautiful building. Isn't it beautiful? We're improving the building. See that nice drape?
The president distracted in his first live address since the start of a war which could define his presidency.
Somebody said today, they said, oh, well, the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this.
Iran and its allies have fired back, hitting a hotel housing US troops in northern Iraq. In Bahrain, dozens of Iranian missiles and drones have been intercepted, but some slipped through. And an airbase outside Dubai, used by Australian forces, was also struck over the weekend.
All the Australians who are there are safe and accounted for.
We don't seek to regionalise the war. It will become regional simply because US bases and facilities are spread across our region.
In Kuwait, 3 US fighter jets were mistakenly shot down from apparent friendly fire. All 6 crew members managed to eject safely.
You're safe. You're safe. You're safe.
As the widening war enters a third day, there's still little clarity about what the US hopes to achieve and the legality of the preemptive strikes alongside Israel.
The imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us.
The US is praising Israel as a capable partner.
Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force.
Force which Israel is unleashing to its north. Renewing airstrikes on the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, which has joined Iran in the conflict. Civilians are fleeing the country's south and Hezbollah's stronghold suburbs in Beirut after overnight strikes killed at least 50 people.
We heard the sound of planes. At first we thought it was the airport because we live near it. Then we heard shelling. Suddenly people started screaming.
The United Nations is urging a return to diplomacy, but in the battered central Israeli city of Beit Shemesh, President Isaac Herzog was defiant.
We want peace, and for this, sometimes you need to fight, and that's exactly what we're doing. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, how do you respond to criticism from the UN that this is a breach of international law? The first Israelis killed have been laid to rest. At least 9 have died.
There was no siren. Suddenly the missile landed directly on the synagogue.
President Trump hasn't ruled out sending in American troops, saying he doesn't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground, and predicts the campaign will be over in 4 to 5 weeks.
To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq.
This is not an endless war. This is, in fact, something that will usher in an era of peace that we haven't even dreamed of.
But in its fight for survival, the Iranian regime says it's prepared for a long war.
And Matthew Doran is in Tel Aviv for us tonight. Matthew, Iran is escalating its retaliatory strikes across the region and has hit a US embassy in Saudi Arabia.
Jess, good evening. This is a suspected drone attack on the US embassy in the Saudi capital, Riyadh. It happened earlier this morning, local time. Given that time of day, it's not believed that there have been any injuries, and damage does appear to be minimal. But again, it is fueling these warnings from the US State Department to Americans across this region to get out while they still can, if they can, given that travel chaos we have seen over the last couple of days or so. The diplomatic quarter in Riyadh, where the US embassy is, Australia's diplomatic mission is only a couple of 100 metres down the road, and that too has been closed due to the deteriorating security situation. It shows that Iran is prepared to attack countries it otherwise wouldn't have, given as it tries to expand this conflict even further. And on a different front, we have received warning in the last short while from Israel's Defence Minister Israel Katz. He has authorised Israeli troops to move further into southern Lebanon. That is also another escalation on another front. Jess.
Matthew Doran, thanks for the update. While a small number of commercial flights have managed to get out of the war-ravaged region, the federal government is warning there's no immediate solution for stranded Australians. More than 17,000 flights have been delayed globally, and travellers fear there's no end in sight.
As missiles flew across the region, stranded tourists took shelter in hotel basements, bedding down on floors and mattresses as they waited out the night.
People were generally fearful for their lives. I was just absolutely terrified.
Sydney woman Kelly Exner is now safe at a friend's home in Dubai, but has no idea for how long, and only has a few weeks' worth of medication for severe refractory Crohn's disease.
I think everybody just needs to manage expectations about when we get out, right? Like, it's terrifying, it's, scary, it's absolutely horrible to be, away from friends and family in a country that you don't understand.
Back home in the Blue Mountains, Andy and Rachel Foster are $30,000 out of pocket for a trip they were meant to embark on tonight.
Because it was the weekend, we couldn't get in touch with the travel agent, so we just sort of tried to make our own decisions as to what we thought was going to happen.
The Australian government is working on contingencies to get Australians out, but has ruled out military-assisted evacuation for now.
I am advised that a small number of commercial flights to other destinations were able to depart overnight. However, the unfortunate reality is that immediate resolution to this situation is unlikely.
And experts are warning of more retaliatory strikes by Iran on infrastructure across the region.
I see no reason why they would stop doing it, because they already see that they're getting some results from it. A huge airport like Dubai Airport has been closed down, which has a massive effect on international aviation.
More than 17,000 flights have been delayed globally and more than 3,000 cancelled as of this morning. Australians in the Middle East are urged to register with the Department of Foreign Affairs, while airlines are telling customers to closely monitor flight information and visit the government's Smart Traveller website. Christy Sexton-McGrath, ABC News.
The war is threatening global oil and gas supplies, sparking concerns of rising inflation and petrol prices. The Treasurer has directed the competition watchdog to monitor fuel prices.
Smoke billowing from one of the world's biggest refineries after it was hit by Iranian drones. This attack on key Saudi Arabian oil infrastructure marks a dramatic escalation in Iran's strategy to halt the flow of oil to the west. That has Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock worried.
It's too early to say what the economic impact will be. A supply shock of this nature, for example, could add to inflation pressures, and the potential implications for inflation expectations also are something that we're very alert to.
That's code for prepare for possible rate hikes. After the weekend attacks, Iran's retaliation initially targeted military installations across the region, along with 3 tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, everything from ports to pipelines is in its sights.
An Iranian general has said not one drop of oil leaving the region. The US is certainly looking to prevent that scenario from happening.
Saudi Arabia, the world's biggest exporter, ships the bulk of its oil and gas through the Persian Gulf, along with Bahrain, Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE and Iran. But it has a pipeline to shunt oil and gas through the Red Sea in case of a threat.
The pipeline infrastructure doesn't move anywhere near as much as the on-sea shipping capacity. So yes, it helps and it limits the damage, but it doesn't replace shipping.
Qatar, one of the world's biggest gas exporters, has shut down LNG production after strikes against 2 facilities. A spike in gas prices 4 years ago sent inflation into orbit. That forced the RBA into a punishing series of rate hikes. The Treasurer is warning against price gouging at the petrol pump, but surging gas prices could be a much bigger headache. Ian Vonderen, ABC News.
To other news now, a 21-year-old man has died after being shot by police in Brisbane's east. Officers went to a Tingalpa address for a welfare check mid-morning and say a man armed with a knife made threats. The police union says a taser was used but didn't work and the man was fatally shot.
About 6 bangs, loud. I thought that they were gunshots immediately, but Mum was like, nah, that's probably construction. But yeah, crazily enough, like 10 minutes later, police coming down the road.
I'm confident that the use of force used is appropriate given the circumstances. However, as I said, this will still be investigated.
A coronial inquest has heard Queensland police granted bail to the estranged husband of Kelly Wilkinson just days before he murdered her. The 3-day inquest is examining the police response to the Gold Coast mother's domestic violence complaints.
A young mother's life brutally taken by a man wrongly granted bail 9 days earlier. Kelly Wilkinson was stabbed and set alight outside her Gold Coast home in April 2021. Her estranged husband, Brian Johnston, was sentenced to life in prison. A coronial inquest examining the interactions between Miss Wilkinson, Johnston and Queensland police in the lead-up to her murder today heard evidence of a potentially fatal misstep. 9 days before he killed Miss Wilkinson, Johnston presented to Southport Police Station where he was charged with raping her, but granted what's known as station bail. The detective inspector who oversaw an internal review of the police response to Miss Wilkinson's case telling the court that should never have happened. We can't actually give bail. In a show cause situation, they should go through to the watch house and go in front of a magistrate. The court heard there was no way of knowing if a magistrate would or would not have granted bail had Johnston gone before a court. It also heard police denied a request from the Gold Coast Domestic Violence Protection Centre to review Kelly Wilkinson's protection orders due to safety concerns 1 week before her murder. Officers from the Gold Coast police stations where Kelly Wilkinson reported Johnston's domestic violence breaches are expected to give their witness testimony when the inquest resumes tomorrow. Mark Rigby, ABC News, Gold Coast.
North Queenslanders are on alert for a potential cyclone in coming days. There have already been flooding rains in the Hinchinbrook Shire, with some residents still isolated as surface water slowly drains away. The Bruce Highway reopened north of Ingham today to the relief of stranded truckies and travellers, but an approaching low is expected to make landfall between Cooktown and Townsville, with a 30% chance of becoming a cyclone.
Likely to see increasing rainfall, winds and waves over the northeast coast, particularly on Thursday and Friday, with that crossing likely during Friday.
So let's bring in Jenny Woodward. Jenny, where's the system likely to go after it crosses?
Well, Jess, at this stage the Bureau are thinking that it will track west over the inland, which will pull the monsoon trough and a lot of moisture to the south. Now, there's also a chance the system moving across the southern and central interior where they've missed out, but that is a less likely outcome. And we do have a strong wind warning from the Cairns coast to the Mackay coast tomorrow, and no doubt that will be upgraded. We could see widespread falls of 50 to 150 millimetres and more isolated 200 to 300 millimetres on Thursday and Friday. And we also have a low pressure system in the Gulf. It's brought heavy falls to the Western Cape and it's likely to head west too. More weather later.
Well, the last significant flooding in North Queensland was about a year ago, and some residents still haven't been able to return home. They say insurance and building delays have left them in limbo, raising questions about whether insurance in disaster-prone areas is fit for purpose.
When the rains hit Cardwell last February, they hit in force. The small coastal town copped more than a metre of rain in just 5 days. 70 houses were flooded. Julia Hernings was one of them.
So we had the water that had come through the roof in the ceiling. We ended up with quite a bit of black mould.
A year later, her house is still just a shell.
You get quite emotional.
The disability pensioner has cycled through 4 short-term rentals and has no idea when she'll be able to go home.
You just have to do what you can to help, but you just go around in circles.
She insured her home with Shore Insurance because its premiums were thousands less than others.
I don't understand why. I don't understand the messing around.
In nearby Ingham, Robin and Ron Powell have arrived home after a year bouncing between relatives' houses across Queensland and interstate. They were told by Shore Insurance their house was ready for them to move back in. Instead, they found electrical problems, incomplete tiling and no plumbing.
We paid for a service. The service just doesn't seem to take responsibility from top to the bottom to the builders of achieving the goal, which is to get their people back into a house.
Shore Insurance says 17 of its customers in the area are not yet home since the 2025 flood, but it expects to have the majority back in by the end of March. The company says major weather events significantly spiked trade demand, which is adding to claim repair times. 80% of claims from the 2025 event have now been settled, according to the Insurance Council. But experts warn that long delays in resolving flood claims are all too common.
The stress on households is unbearable. You know, we do have mechanisms for households to dispute and to take recourse against their insurer, but it's often at such cost to the household.
The cost is not only financial. The strain of this year-long battle, with little end in sight, has taken its toll.
Mentally, physically and emotionally, I've gone to pieces.
It is so very hard to hold that anger in.
Queensland's Deputy Premier has accused a Labor frontbencher of being an anti-Semite in stunning scenes in State Parliament. It comes as the government backtracks on its hate speech legislation.
Tensions boiling over on the floor.
Speaker Cairns is an anti-Semite. He is an anti-Semite.
I take offence and I ask that the member withdraw.
I withdraw.
The allegations related to social media comments the government says Labor MP Michael Healy made.
Equating the state of Israel and its relationship with Australia as Nazi Germany.
I utterly refute that and take offence and ask that the member withdraw. It's the furthest thing from the truth.
Mr Healy defended his record.
I stand against vile acts of anti-Semitism and racism and always had.
This is the government trying to distract from the fact their Premier got rolled by their party room yesterday. That's all it is. Theatrics.
Stephen Miles shifted focus to the government's about-face on its hate speech legislation after widespread criticism. Extraordinary proposed powers would have allowed the Attorney-General to ban any expression inciting violence or offence, but that's now been scrapped, despite repeated assurances it was the best way forward.
If you read the legislation, it's very tight, it's very specific, and it will stand the test of time.
Phrases the government says are anti-Semitic, globalise the Intifada and from the river to the sea are still set to be banned.
Obviously, we are making the crucial amendments to the bill to enshrine the phrases in legislation out of necessity.
Those who breach the law could face up to 2 years in jail. The laws are expected to pass later this week. Alex Brewster, ABC News.
Police are appealing for witnesses after a fourth suspicious blaze at a Mackay tobacconist. Investigators have released footage of two hooded suspects after the fires in January and February. The most recent attack was late Friday night. Two men were seen running from the Andergrove shops. The fire spread to neighbouring businesses. Police are investigating links to organised crime.
Regardless of what it is, in this case, in the recent offence, other businesses have been greatly impacted. Livelihoods have been ruined.
Overseas again, more than 9 hours of video has been released of Bill and Hillary Clinton answering questions about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Sitting through separate depositions in a US congressional probe, the pair distanced themselves from the disgraced financier, suggesting the current US president might have more to share.
A former president distancing himself from a pedophile.
I have no idea. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I do not remember doing that. There's nothing that I saw when I was around him that made me realize he was trafficking women.
Newly released recordings showing Bill Clinton answering questions from a House committee investigating the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't remember everything that happened 24 years ago.
The former president saying he cut ties long before his crimes were discovered in 2008 and that his trips on Epstein's jet were related to his foundation's work combating AIDS across the globe. Calm under questioning.
I'm not happy, but I'm comfortable.
No matter how uncomfortable the evidence.
Did you ever have sexual contact with any young woman or girl introduced to you by Epstein or Maxwell?
No.
The former president revealed little that wasn't already on the public record.
Mr. President, what did you accept? That he killed himself or that he did not?
That he did, but I don't know.
In the same chair a day earlier, Hillary Clinton revealed even less.
I do not recall ever meeting Jeffrey Epstein.
Her long day under oath was tense after a Republican member leaked a picture from inside the closed room.
I'm done with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home.
The former Secretary of State said she only had a casual friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell, a +1 to her daughter's 2010 wedding, and suggested Donald Trump could be more helpful.
But given what's in the files and given past and prior conduct, he would be on my witness list.
The president denies any wrongdoing. Melissa McKay, ABC News.
To Finance Now, here's Alan Kohler.
The American market was held steady by oil company shares going up and an unrelated bounce in tech stocks, but shares in Japan and Europe were hit fairly hard. And that was the tone in Australia today, where mining stocks and others with a global focus were sold. Energy companies and banks were bought. Oil, gas, gold and silver continued to rally for obvious reasons, especially gas, after the world's biggest LNG export facility in Qatar was shut down after it was hit by an Iranian drone. At one stage, European gas futures were up 54% before settling 39% higher. And gold is having another run at its record high. And the Aussie dollar is standing still, holding its breath, hoping nobody notices it. The ABS released housing approvals data for January today. They fell 7.2%, with units down 25%. Now, the Reserve Bank's head economist, Sarah Hunter, gave a very interesting speech in Norway last night, comparing what the RBA has done with interest rates against the average of other advanced countries. Our cash rate peaked at 4.35%, as we know. The others, on average, peaked at 5.7%. They're now the same at 3.85%. That's meant higher inflation here than it would have been, what Sarah Hunter calls the counterfactual if the RBA cash rate had been the same as the average of the others. More importantly for the RBA, it's also meant less unemployment, which was the plan. Our unemployment rate is 4.1%. The counterfactual is 5.2%. And the grey shaded area shows the range of other advanced countries, which is enormous. And Australia's jobless rate is the lowest. And that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30, as different states look to tighten gun laws, what will keep Australians safe?
In Australia, the mere act of owning a firearm is a political act.
We said we would respond and respond we have.
There doesn't seem to be any relationship between the number of legally owned guns and firearm violence in Australia.
I guess we can make the same argument, why don't we ban cars? We'll have less car accidents. It's not a practical outcome.
To sport, Matilda's midfielder Amy Sayer has acknowledged the bravery of the Iranian women's team ahead of Thursday's Asian Cup group game on the Gold Coast. Sayer says the Matildas' hearts go out to the Iranian women who are playing while their country is under attack.
Back in training on the Gold Coast, the Matildas are aiming to maintain their unbeaten start to the Asian Cup and improve on their underwhelming 1-0 win over the Philippines. But they're also mindful of the pressure that their next opponent, Iran, is under on and off the pitch.
Our heart goes out to them and their families. It's a difficult situation. And, you know, it's really brave of them to be able to be here and to perform. The best we can do to contribute is to just give them the best game of football that we're able to, show them the respect on the field.
The Iran players also had the respect of the fans last night before they played their first game of the tournament.
It's going to be very hard for them to just be in the match. We'll support them to do their best, and we're more than happy to have them here.
I would say it's not easy to be a female Iranian athlete. I don't think the West will ever understand the dynamics that they have to deal with.
There was no singing from the Iran team members during the national anthem. They had some promising moments in a determined display, but were outclassed 3-0 by the 2022 finalist, South Korea.
And it's headed home.
North Korea also started its campaign on a winning note.
And the follow-up volley!
Defeating Uzbekistan 3-0 in Parramatta. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
Weather now with Jenny Woodward. And Jenny, I'm pretty excited for this lunar eclipse tonight. Are we going to get a good look?
So am I, Jess, and I really think a lot of us will. We've got cloud about the tropics, and also in the southwest of the state. But as you can see, plenty of clear skies over much of Queensland. Now, the action starts here at about 10 to 8. The eclipse peaks at about 9:30, and the moon will take on a red glow. But looking at our flooding situation across the state, we've got some major flooding up in the north and the southwest of the state. The Herbert River, however, has now gone down, but there's still plenty of flood watches as well. It was a cool day under the cloud cover. Birdsville 5 below on 31, and it was a few degrees below in Cooktown on 28. Brisbane had a top of 30 degrees, 31 for Ipswich. Let's have a look at our satellite chart, and you can see we've got all of that action across the tropics. 4 lows on the monsoon trough at the moment, and the big rain area last night was in that Cooktown Daintree area where there were falls of 200 to 300 millimetres. Interstate tomorrow, and the showers are coming towards Sydney and Canberra, and also it'll be a very warm day in Perth, a top of 36 there. On to the map now, and here's our major systems. The monsoon trough with the low likely to cross perhaps as a cyclone. There's a 30% chance on Friday, and then it's expected to head west, although it may come south. Still a lot of uncertainty. The inland trough weakening, and we should see conditions starting to clear out there in the next day or two. Let's check our rainfall areas for tomorrow, and you can see over the next few days we could see quite a lot of activity across much of the state, and there will be some severe storms tomorrow right up on the Northern Cape and potentially for the last time out in the southwest corner. Let's check forecasts now, and in the north, showers, potentially severe storms with that heavy rainfall north of about Cardwell, and mostly sunny to the northwest and over the goldfields and the upper Flinders. A few showers on the central coast and down to the Capricornia. Still stormy out in the southwest. We could see those severe cells. A couple of storms moving into southwest parts of the Maranoa, and there might be a couple of showers on the highlands, but otherwise mostly sunny. Some cloud about the Downs, but staying fine. Some showers on the southeast coast. In Brisbane, showers about 30 to 32 degrees, 31 in Logan. Easterly winds on the bay tomorrow, 10 to 15 knots, seas to a metre, and looking ahead, some rain on the weekend, Jess.
Thanks, Jenny.